So on the 6th of December, a new version of Blender came out, 3.4.0. Let us go ahead and attempt an installation on this new version. Before that, I will give myself a clean setup of preferences, so I'll hold down the Windows button and press R. And in the run window, we'll go to %appdata%, which will take us to our roaming location. For the Blender Foundation folder, I am just going to put an underscore at the very beginning in order to make this a different folder than the one that Blender expects to see. And then from here, we are just going to open up Blender, vanilla and new, as if it's never seen us before. Now that we have Blender loaded, we will just set our shortcuts to Blender, select with left, spacebar, search, and Blender Deep Gray, my favorite theme. We'll just click to remove this, and I'll press Shift H to hide both of the elements that I do not have selected. From here, I can press F4, and we go under Preferences. Inside of our preferences, we'll click on Install, and we'll just jump to the path and install Boxcutter 719_14. And we'll install HardOps 987_33. And with that, both add-ons are installed. However, we'll go ahead and enable Boxcutter notifications, maybe even set our array up to be 3D. And I can even press Ctrl K to go under my preferences and save them. And if we press Alt W, we're in Boxcutter, and by saving our startup file, this is exactly where we'll start up whenever we open up Blender. So here we are, good to go. So with that, I can press Alt X, mirror, maybe Alt X again, mirror it on the Z, and continue working, and we see that we are able to easily migrate over to the latest Blender without any problem. So now I'm just going to add dice. We'll press S to Smart Apply, T to exit to twist, and now we are twisting this into a different object, and with that we have completed a successful installation. In fact, I will go under Settings, Alt-click Manage in order to purify all the cutters that I applied, and with that we are done. So for the previous leg of the installation, we went in the Blender Foundation and created this folder for 3.4, which is the version that we are currently configuring for. However, what I'm going to do is go back to my roaming, and we're going to completely delete this folder of Blender Foundation, so that way Blender has no idea whatever happened. We're just going to close Blender, make sure a new folder did not pop up, and from here I'm just going to open Blender 3.3.1, and we'll wait for that to open. And from here we're going to begin configuring the last version of Blender that came out. So shortcuts Blender, select with left, spacebar, search, Deep Gray. We'll choose Next, and I'm just going to Shift H, hide everything, and then use F4, go into our preferences, jump over to add-ons, and begin installing these. So I'm just pasting my path, installing 719.14, installing 987_33. From here, they've both been installed. In fact, before we exit, we can go under Operator Options and choose Boxcutter notifications and save our preferences. I'll press Alt W in order to open up Boxcutter, and now with that open, we are just going to save our startup scene. So now whenever we open up Blender, we are immediately ready to get in here and begin using Boxcutter. So no further ado, with having to boot it up and press any hotkeys for that, we will already be ready. So with that, I am just going to close this version of Blender. And now, since we previously deleted the Blender Foundation folder, whenever I open up 3.4, Blender won't recognize it as existing. And here we have Blender 3.4.0, which just came out yesterday. This time we are going to load 3.3 settings. And we see that we are now inside of Boxcutter and ready to go. So the migration process also appears to have not given us any difficulties either. However, if you do run into hardships with this, it is recommended that you possibly neutralize your preferences and try it with a clean installation to ensure that there aren't any preference-related incompatibilities causing any issues. For these things are definitely outside of our purview of support. So now I'm just going to draw a box, press W, bring it out, turn that into a wedge, maybe draw one more, turn that one into a wedge, maybe ever scroll, bring it back. And so far so good. We'll just Alt X, mirror it to the bottom, and I'm just going to go under Mesh Tools, Alt click Dice in order to bring up a dice, and we will just press T in order to exit to twist, and here we are now twisting this object that we created. Just a fun way to get started in HardOps. Of course, I can go under Add Modifier, choose Lattice, change this to be linear, so it's very strict on it, and then just begin making my modifications of this shape. But with that, we have now installed Boxcutter and HardOps for 3.3.1 and then migrated up to 3.4.0. In fact, if we wanted to completely end this video properly, I will go over to the daily builds, and we see that we have 3.5.0, which came out earlier today. I'm just going to boot that up, and we'll see what happens. And here we see 3.5.0 hasn't been configured yet, so we are just going to choose to load the 3.4 settings all the way up into 3.5.0 alpha, which came out yesterday as of this video. And now we are good to go even in that version of Blender. So notice that even though I loaded my settings from a previous version of Blender, I'm able to just get to work, and I didn't have to save my preferences or anything. So if I wanted to test that, let's just close this window. Let's close this window instead. Typically underneath my Blender is another Blender just in case it crashes. And from here, we are just going to load up 3.5.0, and we see that we are ready to rock and roll without any further ado. So with that, our installation is complete, and this video is a wrap. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. After I finish dicing and twisting. Okay.